Hey everybody, it's Brian, and just real quickly before I get to the video, I do want to apologize. It has been over a year since I produced this video and replaced this water heater. I had all kinds of things happen. It is now November of 2020 when I'm producing this video. So just a reminder, it was the first video I ever made for you guys. It was not some of the best lighting, not some of the best cinematography, and of course my basement didn't help with the audio either. So my apologies in advance, but I did want to get this information out to you in case anybody has questions on how to do an install of a water heater with a sidearm heat exchanger. So with that, let's get to the video. God bless. All right, so back to our water heater project. As you can see surrounding me here, I've been to the hardware store, picked up a whole bunch of the stuff we need to get this thing all hooked up, including plumbed in with the wood boiler. One thing I didn't show you on video, I pulled off the bottom of the water heater's drain. Most new water heaters are coming with this new plastic style drain, and I don't like these for a couple of reasons, and I'll just tell you again, I'm not a plumber, not a professional, but this is my opinion on this, twofold. Number one, this is plastic, and plastic is very easy to crack or dry rot. Where I'm originally from, out in the Southwest, this stuff would crack and dry rot easily. Also, it's a screw type valve, which the screw type valves do not open nearly as quickly to flush your water heater and get all that junk out of the bottom in a couple of years or every year when you're testing it. And then the third thing is, if you imagine this in the water heater, you need to turn this valve. Now, it's kind of tough to turn it that way, especially on the bottom of the water heater, or do something like this. And then it's going to exit and shoot out your water. Now, yeah, you're probably going to have a garden hose on here, but everybody knows a garden hose leaks. So this is 120 degree water coming out at your hand. So if you're right here and your garden hose leaks, you've now burned your hand. Or if you're under it and it drips, you've now burned your hand. So I don't like these. So one of the first things I do whenever I buy a water heater is I take that out and I replace it with a standard steel, or what I call standard steel and brass ball valve and fittings. So I'll show you the parts that we've got to do this. The first thing we've got is a small nipple. This happens to be a 3-inch. I just matched it about to the shape and size of that drain valve. So this 3-inch is going to go inside the water heater like that. Next, we've got our ball valve that's going to attach right here on the end, and this will get threaded on with pipe tape. And as soon as I get it to catch here, come on, there we go. So that'll get threaded on nice and tight with pipe tape. The next we have is a 3/4 inch, and this is what's called an MPI, which basically is pipe thread, and then the M is for the male, so male pipe thread, to a 3/4 inch MIP right here, which MIP is, again, male, and this is for, IP is for garden hoses. I don't know what it actually stands for, but that's a garden hose type fitting. So this is going to go on this side of the ball valve. Again, I'll use pipe thread. We'll use my pipe thread here in just a second. And then the very last thing, just to protect it, this is not necessary. This is just a cap made for garden hose fittings. So this will screw right on the end, and that will be the drain that is coming out of my water heater. So I'm going to start putting this together, and we'll video maybe the first part or something, but we won't do the whole thing. But I'll show you how we do this. A couple different things when you're using pipe tape or a pipe dope. You can use either one. I do have pipe dope in my garage in the shop, but I didn't bring it up here because I was actually reading very carefully, and pipe dope is only rated to 120 degrees. There is a chance the water heater could get higher than 120. I don't know that for certain, but there's a definite chance. So I'm going to use tape on these fittings. A couple of things when you're using pipe tape. Number one is you only want to do the male threads, obviously. It seems pretty straightforward, but I have seen people try to stuff pipe tape inside that fitting, and it's just not going to work. So you only want to do the male threads, and we'll get rid of this little string here, so I'm going to try and find the end of my pipe tape, hopefully. There it is. So we take the pipe tape out. Then the other thing you want to do is you want to go the same way you're going to be threading the piece on. So if you think about it, this ball valve is going to get threaded and spun, if I'm facing it from the top, clockwise. Good old-fashioned righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if I take my pipe tape and I go the same way, clockwise, then when we put the ball valve on, it is not going to pull off the pipe tape. It's actually going to reinforce it. So we're going to go around about 6 times is the rule of thumb. So there's kind of 1, and we'll go 2. And you want to make sure you're all the way down to the end. You don't want to leave any fittings or any threads showing. But on the other hand, you also do not want to end up inside the water line itself. In this case, just being a drain, it's probably not that critical, but again, you want to avoid being inside the water line. If you do the practice right now, then you won't have to worry about it later. Some people cut pipe tape. I just tear it. It's real simple to just give it a quick snug tear. And so now I've got pipe tape on the male end of my nipple. Next step is we're going to take this and we're going to put it into the ball valve. And we'll start threading it on. And the ball valve is going to start to get a little bit snug, and this is where we're going to grab the tools that we use to get that drain out of there. So we're going to use our crescent wrench, and we're going to get it nice and tight on this ball valve. And hold it the right way. The crescent wrench is directional, if you didn't know that. They are actually made so that the forces and stuff are transferred into this big part. So you hold it directionally, it helps. It's much like a pipe wrench is. I'm going to use the pipe wrench for this stainless steel. There we go. So that's our first fitting. This one is going to go in the water heater. We'll do that in a minute, but we're going to go ahead and finish building my drain. I like to go ahead and do that. So, same thing. On the male end, we're going to grab our pipe tape. We're going to go clockwise around the male end of the pipe fitting, not the hose fitting. Remember, garden hoses tend to have that little rubber O-ring in there, so we don't need pipe tape on that. So we're just going to do a little bit of pipe tape on here and get it nice and coated on this brass fitting. By the way, if you are watching this, I made this video. To give you an idea, it's November of 2019, and brass is unreal in price. I could not believe how much I had to pay for brass and fittings and stuff. It was way more than I expected in the last water heater I did. And that one was before the days of YouTube. So, just to get the handle out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and close the ball valve, get it out of the way. We'll get this one started. You may notice also, I put the ball valve so that when it's open, the handle goes what'll be away from the water heater. That's something you need to make sure to do. Otherwise, you'll never be able to open it. This one, I didn't bring a second crescent wrench with me, so I'll see if I can make the pipe wrench work. Otherwise, we'll have to pause while I go get some tools. But I'll finish these and get this thing squared up and ready, and then we'll start the video again when we're putting it in, and I'll show you a couple of considerations when you are putting the ball valve into the drain of the water heater. So we'll be back with you in just a minute. All right, so I've got my drain all assembled here. We've got the nipple, the ball valve, the adapter, and my little hose bib down there. This is a brand new tank. As you can see, it's still sitting on the pallet from the shop, and we'll get it off when we mount it here in a minute. But what I wanted to show you is when you put a drain valve in, one thing a plumber taught me years ago is you always want to install the valve with it open. And I don't know why or what the reasoning behind this is, but he says that can actually build pressure inside the tank, especially an installed tank, and could actually damage the element. He said it's particularly vulnerable in electric tanks, but just a good practice to go ahead and leave the valve open. Of course, if the handle gets in your way, you can always take it off. I don't think it's going to be in my way, but we'll see here when we do this. So this is going to go in right where the old drain was. The little dress-up ring that came with the water heater, we'll just put that on so it looks like it's supposed to be there. Be nice and fancy and pretty and all that good stuff. And we'll put this in and get it threaded. Maybe. There, catching. Obviously, we can't check for leaks until the water heater is filled, and we will do that. Let me grab the crescent wrench. Once the water heater gets filled, we will check for leaks, and then I'll push that little dress ring back against. Right now, I'll leave it out so that I can actually get behind it and see what's back there. But we'll go ahead and tighten this thing up. And then the other consideration a lot of people have is they think about where do you want the handle. Obviously, in the open position, the handle is going to be going in the same direction as the drain or the hose. So that's not really a big deal. But the one to consider is where you put the handle in the off position. And do you want it up? Do you want it level? I wouldn't put it underneath personally. I think that would be a pretty poor choice of trying to reach under. Remember, your water heater is going to be sitting generally on or at the ground. I also would not put it on the same side as the gas line and stuff. The only reason I wouldn't do that is because if your hand is here and you've got a leak and water spewing, you're going to be in a hurry. And when you're in a hurry to turn the water off, there's a chance you can come through and grab something you don't want to. You could grab the igniter wire, you could knock something else you want. So what I like to do is I like to bring the valve all the way over here to the opposite side. And that's where I'm going to put this one. Now, one thing I haven't looked at with this particular tank, and I don't think it's going to be an issue, but I have this second cold outlet here that is going to be used for the sidearm. And if we find I have to turn this back the other way, then we'll do that. But we'll see. My crescent wrench is jammed up here. Give me just a second. Joys of being a DIYer, see? All right. There's a reason I call these things Chevy tools. All right. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it just a little bit further around. And, oops, I don't want to strip it out, that's for sure. I'm going to leave it nice and tight right there. That's where I'm going to leave it. And that way off is in the up position. From that side I can grab it real easily and open it if I need to. And if I find I have to move it with the sidearm, I'll do that. So then we take our cap, just like a hose. It's got the little rubber grommet in it. Conceptually, it's never going to need it anyway, but it's there just to dress it up so you don't have open threads that get muddy. And that's it. I've replaced the drain valve now on our new water heater. So next steps is we prep the top. We're going to get these fittings ready, things like that. But we'll keep going, and little by little, we'll get this project done so that water heater's replaced. All right, so our next step on our water heater install, now that the drain has been replaced completely, is we're going to get the water heater prepped for actual placement into the house. So we need to put the valves on top, or the inlet and outlet, for the hot and cold water. Many water heaters come with these fittings. Mine did. As you can see, if you look real careful, there is a little bit of pipe dope actually already on there. Looking at it, it is not all the way around. There's some missing spots and stuff in mine. And it's not real thick. So I'm still going to put a couple of wraps of heat tape in there, of the plumber's tape, just to be sure that that's safe. On the top of the water heater, if you don't know, there are two outlets in most water heaters. They are labeled hot and cold. The cold is obviously for the cold water coming from your well or your city water, whatever your source is, into the water heater. And the hot is the hot water going out. Now on the inside of the water heater, don't forget, there is a plastic tube, if you don't know, that's a feed tube for the cold water that actually takes it all the way down to the bottom of the tank. It is very important that you don't sweat pipe attached to the water heater. You can chance breaking that tube or melting it or things like that with just the heat transfer. So if you have any sweating of copper pipes you need to do before you install the water heater, do that before you attach them right here to the tank. And actually this heater has a label on top that says the same thing for the caution. The other thing we need to do is we need to keep in mind what we want for final placement of the water heater. In my case, the water heater is going to be put in with a snap to connect fitting. Some of you have heard of it called SharkBite. SharkBite is a brand. It's like Scotch tape, okay? Scotch is a brand. It's just a clear tape. Well, SharkBite is the same thing. They are a push to connect fitting where basically one end will screw right on here with plumber's tape as normal, and the other will just push right onto my copper line coming out of the house. That helps us out a little bit with the install, makes it just a little bit easier for homeowners. There are a lot of people that say SharkBite is not any good, it won't hold up. Overall, from the duration of everything I've researched online and some great people that I've read their blogs and seen their videos on YouTube, SharkBite has a life of anywhere from 10 to 12 years. Guess what, folks? A water heater has an average expected life of about 10 to 15 years. So you're right there in the same time frame. And if you start to get a leak from one of those SharkBite tubes, pipes, you can always just replace that as well. So I'm electing to use SharkBite on the top. For my secondary outlets and stuff that we'll plumb here in just a minute, I will not be using SharkBite. The goal is to keep those tight. So I'm going to work on getting this connected, and I'll be right back with you in just a minute. All right, so the next step to hook this to our central boiler heating unit is we need to install the nipples on these side outlets for this tank. So what we're going to do to access these, I'm going to take my pliers, we'll take this little plastic cap off, And we pull that out, we will see some insulation back here. We'll pull that insulation out. That's just so you don't have a point of heat loss if you don't use this. If your tank has these outlets and you're not going to use them, it is sealed in there. There is a fitting to block that hole, so you don't have to worry about it. It's not going to leak or anything like that. The fitting is not a tool I have up here from the shop. I need to go down and grab my crescent wrench, or excuse me, not my crescent wrench, but I need to go grab some of my other tools so that I can get in there and do that. One thing I did notice, however, is I bought a dielectric union. And what this is, you can check it out on YouTube. That's how I've learned it and stuff, and just a little bit of working with metals and stuff. Dissimilar metals, i.e. steel inside this tank, or whatever material is in here, but usually it's stainless steel, and brass or copper, dissimilar metals can react. When you have them connected together, they can cause reactions and cause corrosion. So they give you a dielectric union, which is basically just the union, which means it's an easy on and off fitting. So here is the one metal. That's going to be the nipple for in the tank. You've got a rubber seal that will keep everything nice and dry, keep it sealed up, just like a garden hose has a rubber seal. Then you have this little orange ring, and this is just a nylon separator between the two metals. And that will go onto our brass fitting, and this fitting is made to sweat onto copper pipe. So I picked these up, a couple of them, so that I would be safe on this dielectric union, and I have discovered one major problem. To put this thing in with my pipe wrench, that nipple has got to be longer. I won't be able to do it without grabbing onto the threads. So I'm going to have to run back down to the hardware store, see if they have a longer union. This is the problem with the manual for this water heater. It didn't tell you what length to get. So I'm apparently going to need a good 3 or 4 inch union to go inside here. I'll take a look into that, and I'll get right back with you here. Well, it'll be a little bit of time for me. For you, it's going to be just a couple of seconds. I'll be right back.